So I see that a lot of people are very much interested in knowing what is going to happen in the digital world of mapping. That's a good sign. And I remember a couple of decades ago, I must say, we tried to get a digital map to develop road traffic information in the cars with shareholders like Renault and Philips. And they set up EGT, which becomes later on NAVTEC and then here. And at that time, there was people doing the same in Germany. And unfortunately, when we tried to match all the digital maps, the motorway does not connect at all. It's a long time ago. Now everything is much better. And we'll see what will be the future. So I'm Roger Panier. I come from the French Ministry of Transport. And now I am a member of the board of ATEC ITS France. And it's my pleasure to moderate this session and with colleagues coming from the industry and the Commission. The three key technical enablers in ITS are mapping, of course, satellite positioning, but we talk about satellite positioning this morning, so we'll not talk anymore. And the last one maybe is communication. We need a great connectivity. The more you develop application in ITS world, the more you need connectivity. So everything has been looked at in session before. So now we are talking about mapping. What is the situation of mapping? So I will invite the speakers to go to the podium. I will propose we have two speakers coming from key manufacturers from TomTom. We have Crane Jane. He's a senior manager for go-to-market in here. We have Stefan Stubel, who is a senior expert on HAD. That's mean?
AD of HAD.
Yeah. Okay. TomTom. We have a user. Can we say you are a user of mapping?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Paul Spears from PTV, who is UK Managing Director. And we have Claire Deprez from the European Commission, DG Move. So maybe we will start by giving them a couple of minutes, 10 minutes for each of them to present their organization, the main trends, on what they want to say to you before launching the debate. So if you want, we start with Crane.
Okay.
Thank you. So Crane is responsible for automotive services on highly automated driving related to products in the EMA region since 2004. Earlier, he worked on traffic as regional manager and product marketing manager. Crane is based in Eindhoven, as everybody knows, in the Netherlands. You have the floor for 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for joining this session on maps in the 21st century. So, in the coming 10 minutes, I'm going to let you think a little bit about a few things. And I will focus actually specifically on what role the location cloud plays into 21st century mapping. And so, here as a mapping company, of course, we do have maps. We have maps in close to, say, 200 countries. We have a location platform where we serve companies like Microsoft with Bing Maps, Yahoo, Amazon, and we have a lot of different services. Also things like real-time traffic information in 58 countries. And we are serving, apart from the enterprise space, also automotive OEMs. And so a lot of cars drive around with HERE maps on board. Actually a lot of people simply don't know because it's sort of hidden in the navigation software experience. And talking about navigation software experience, we also stepped into that space. And so HERE as a company does provide nowadays also navigation software guidance solutions. And one of the first examples there is one of the newer Jaguars making use of our navigation software. And one last point of promotion, we are also in the consumer space. And so if you have an iOS or Android phone, you can utilize Here Maps app. And if you have a Windows phone, actually you're making use of Here Maps. So, okay, enough of the broadcasting of Here as a company. And I want to dive a little bit into highly automated driving. And so, maybe first one step back where in the 21st century, there will be more and more location-based services. So utilizing the more traditional map and bring all kind of new navigation experiences. So really door-to-door, seamless experiences. So plan back at home, go to your car, get in your car, automatically syncing of your destination, getting out of your car, being guided automatically for the last mile. So all these sort of experiences are also on the go. But first I want to more highlight, that's more the goal of this session, on what is happening in the future. So what is really new about the 21st century map. And of course everybody is talking about highly automated driving, and that's a very important aspect within the ITS space. We as a mapping company believe that high definition maps are a very important component of that. And what I want to try to do is to let you feel a little bit about why this is necessary. And that's why I listed down three sort of problems, challenges for highly automated driving use cases. And the first one being actually, where am I? And that seems a very simple question. But if you're driving around with your vehicle and you need to position yourself in exactly the right driving lane, being the left, the middle, or the right, or even you have more lanes, and just purely relying on vehicle sensor data, this will be really a challenge. Easily, sensor visibility is blocked. So there is a truck in front of you, you have curves, you have slopes, and say typical vehicle sensors do not look any further than, say, 150 meters. You really need to have a more accurate map in order to position the vehicle. And both in the lateral positioning, in which driving lane am I actually, but also in the longitudinal direction. So you need to have location references in order to position yourself more accurately than purely based on vehicle sensors. And so typical GPS, you probably do know, is plus minus, say, 15 meters in accuracy. And you need other sensors, cameras, LiDAR, but also map data in order to bring down the location uncertainty. And so that's the first kind of challenge. So where actually am I? And also the question on what will be my next maneuver. Think about you're being behind a vehicle, maybe a truck even, and you're going up the slope around, which is having a bend, and it becomes very, very difficult to decide whether you still can overtake this specific truck in enough time before you can take the next exit. And so you need to have this sort of information in order to decide what the next maneuver will be. So the more sort of micro maneuvering of the vehicle, we believe that you also need a high definition map for being able to do so. And a third aspect, I will not talk so much about it, but today is what we call humanized driving, and that's basically historic speed profiles on how people have been driven the roads in the past. So think that you want to set your automated vehicle in a comfortable speed, and especially when you have curves or you have things very close to the edge of the road, and then you as a human being would naturally slow down the vehicle speed. But just simply looking to the speed limit in maybe the map or just looking to the signs around you might let the vehicle drive, say, 100 kilometers per hour or 80 kilometers per hour. But you as a a human being would be frightened, right? And so this comfort aspect might seem a luxurious. So everybody is talking about, yeah, we need to have highly automated driving, which is safe, and which is, of course, very important. But don't forget, in order for consumers to accept highly automated driving, the vehicle needs to behave very natural and very, give you a feel of comfort. And I think we should not underestimate this. So if your vehicle makes some strange moves and drives too fast, it is frightening. It is easily having used switching off this highly automated driving feature and think, I'm never ever going to use again. So how do you then tease this person just to the next time, the next vehicle he buys to have them, let them try again this highly automated driving feature? So I think, well, again, 3 different aspects. So HD map, I didn't call so much very explicitly, but what we call live roads on what lies ahead. So see it also as elements, dynamic elements like traffic information sort of things, and humanized driving, so speed profiles which can set you at a more natural speed. But I started this presentation a little bit with why do we believe that the cloud is playing such an important role for that? And in a way, it's a kind of obvious. Everybody talks about it. Everybody knows this. But I want to try to make that a little bit more apparent. And so this is an example of how a high-definition map is looking like of, in this case, a relative simple junction. And this is a tremendous difference. And this is a high-definition map as compared to what you nowadays have on your phone or in your vehicle. In your vehicle, you just simply have one node, one dot in the middle of this junction, and then some straight lines go straight from there. And it is a very much abstracted view of the world. And even today, with this highly abstracted view, we're making millions of changes in the map globally per day. And so really millions, so over 3 million per day. And so imagine that you go to such a high definition map with way more detail. And so how can you keep up with the pace of the change? And so on an annual basis, roughly, you have 10 to 20, 25% of map changes. And so if your map is changing so rapidly, how you can keep pace with all the changes in the high definition map. So, and there is where the cloud comes in. And so, about making such a high definition map, and so we have what we call true vehicles, which are basically vehicles with LiDAR scanning data, and I think other mapping companies follow a very similar process, where LiDAR is very accurate, gives a very accurate point cloud data, and out of this point cloud data you can build high definition maps. But we have other sources, a little bit more traditional sources like community. We are also using FCD data, so probe data, so GPS probe data coming from vehicles, coming from apps, which you can help in deciding and to get to know, hey, geometry of the road has been changing, so that's very valuable information as well. That triggers an updating process. So satellite data you can utilize, and also that is relatively new, OEM sensors. So data coming from vehicles, which you can utilize in order to update the map. You might have read that here has been acquired a few months back by Daimler, Audi, and BMW, and they also stated on the first day that acquired here that they will make OEM sensor vehicle data available in order to do all kind of services with that, and of course that includes update of maps. And so and the challenge there is to get more and more to that with real time. And so back in the past, so in your car, you easily have even a new map. If you have a new map on board, it can be easily a year old because of the compilation process. Obviously, more and more you see that there will be streaming and update strategies in order to keep the map fresh in the vehicle, and maybe we can discuss a little bit later. But the challenge is really on how can you do this automatically updated process in real time so that you can serve this highly automated driving use case. Of course, you need to utilize all these different raw data coming from all these different sources. You process that, you create a map out of that, and then you deliver the data in order to all sort of different channels. So being it vehicles, trucks, apps, a whole lot of different channels where you can use and serve the data. So having said that, I want to conclude my talk. So thank you very much for your attention and to listen to my speech about high definition maps. I want to give back the words to Roger. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Graham, for introducing the subject. Now we are at the heart of the topic, and we'll give the floor to Stephen. I'm sorry you have a second speaker, but does that mean anything? Okay, Stephen has been in the mapping business for almost 20 years. He's working in engineering, research, business, all the development chain, in fact, and for product management. In Teleatlas on TomTom. You were in both companies.
Well,
Okay.
Teleatlas was acquired by
perfect.
TomTom.
Thank you. You have the floor for 10 minutes.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Can I have, should I change the slide myself?
Okay. Yeah,
I'm not going to present
do you want to have?
any further.
You can leave it there.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
That's me. So, good afternoon, I said that already. I will, of course, I will have a similar explanation of where we think we are going. I will try to put a few accents left and right in the story, so in order not to repeat the same story. I have one slide, let me see, that shows TomTom's business today. And I'm not going to go into details, but what I want you to remember is the differentiation in products. I think in the discussion that we will have later, I can come back to this differentiation of the products. So the core assets of TomTom for the moment are maps or content in general, because, for example, we have phonetic transcriptions in our navigation content product. It's not a map, this type of content. So content is maybe a better word than maps. Navigation software is, of course, the core asset of TomTom, that's evident. And we are very proud of our high-quality traffic services. So in the 21st century, and we are already one decade ahead, we observe that a lot of devices, things, will be connected, and they will be connected via the internet. Think of the cars, and we'll elaborate on that, but also your house, your household appliances, your clothes, and so on. Of course, your mobile device, that's for sure. What that actually means is that it will create a higher demand for spatial data, for maps. And also, it will mean that the type of these maps will be very diverse. We will see a lot of new maps coming up to support different use cases, and that's something I want to stress. On the other hand, you will also see in many of these use cases a requirement for higher accuracy, higher confidence level, higher quality in general. Two specific use cases I want to bring to your attention. One is indoor maps. So for the specific area of the indoor world, TomTom has worked on map products, and we are rolling this out for different use cases. In general, to support tracking and locating use cases, to support facility management, passenger tracking in airports, evident, patient tracking in healthcare centers, and also enterprises. So we are very, I would say, ambitious in rolling out these types of maps to explore or to enable our customers in the IoT world to build their use cases. We should never forget that maps are an enabler technology. They are not the use case itself. It's an enabler, and it was a support function in many cases. Now it's an enabler or even a vital function in many technologies. This brings me to my last slide, so I'm hurrying up. Autonomous driving, or automated driving, as we sometimes call it, and there's a whole debate on how to differentiate the two. But generally, the story is similar to what Krijn has explained, moving from A to B with the standard navigation map, introducing the HD map, and today, by coincidence, I didn't plan it, but today there's a press release by TomTom that we announced that we have produced 120,000 kilometers of these HD maps, dominantly now in the US, but we are rolling out this type of map content in Europe. So we are far ahead of competition in that area, and we are very proud of that. So check out the press release if you're interested. Related to this HD map, which is a lane level map, so to speak, is specific content we produce for the localization of vehicles. Localization, as Krijn indicated, is crucial for autonomous driving, automated driving. And we have found a very clever solution for that. And you see that by the side of the road in this colorful images. Is kind of a pattern of the road that is observed by our high-end mapping vehicle that we store in the map. And when the car is equipped with sensors that can generate similar depth maps, should not necessarily be a LiDAR. Evident it is a LiDAR, but you can also create depth maps with stereo cameras or other combinations. You can try to correlate them. And if you find a match during this correlation, you find your localization relative to that geocoded image. So that's something we are now exploring with a lot of OEM and suppliers, and it seems very promising, and it's actually filling an explicit requirement from the automotive industry for better localization to overcome all the issues we have with GPS. On the last picture on the right-hand side, comfort. It's in the area of this behavioral data. Thanks to our tens of millions of probe data that we retrieve, we are able to generate speed profiles for roads. These reflect the longitudinal speeds. And with this information, you can do a lot of interesting stuff. You can feed it to a powertrain system so that the car knows which gears to take and so on. There's a lot of interesting things you can do. And of course, the ultimate goal is to have an acceptable behavior of the automated vehicle, so people accept it. So I want to stop here.
Okay, many thanks, Stephen. Thank you for giving us additional information on this mapping industry. So now we are going to move down the value chain with our speakers. You are near the customer, more near the customer. I don't know. So Paul he has an experience of 20 years in transport modeling. He's a great specialist in transport modeling. And that helps to influence and shape policies, support regional and citywide master plan, and provide operational performance platform for traffic management and control purposes. And he has a motto: the solution is far more important than the component parts. Okay, it's a program.
Yeah. Okay. Afternoon, everybody. I'm a transport modeler by trade. I build transport models. I have a short agenda here. As Roger said, I am a user of maps and data that comes with maps. Very important for my business. I guess what I try to do in my business is populate these maps with information relating to transport that allow decision makers to make good decisions, confident decisions. Okay, so what I have here really is a selection of examples of how we're using maps and data together to build transport models. And does anybody know what a transport model is? Have you come across this in your day jobs? Nobody. That's depressing. Okay, so we need all of this information here to build a transport model, and it starts with a map, which you can get from there or from these types of suppliers. But to populate this map, we also want to know stuff about land use, which is actually population, where people live, where they go to work, where they shop, where they go to school, which can be points of interest as well. You're getting all these stuff from maps. And also, to populate the maps, real data, historical speed data, data that's collected on the network from various types of sensors, be they fixed in position or floating car sensors. And they can be at various levels of detail. Socio-demographic data, this is the population segmentation, so breaking your population down into types of people, because people behave differently. And what we want to understand is how those mixture of behaviours, travel behaviours, fill up our transport networks. And then traffic counts. This is the socio-demographic data. Normally we collect this data at a kind of zone level, and the zone is filled up with the population that live there and their own demographic data. And the last thing, traffic counts. In this day and age, we can get so much traffic count data just like that. In the old days, we would send people out to sit on the street and count with clickers all day long. Inaccurate, costly, time-consuming. Now, it's all there. It's all available. Where are we going next? Okay, use cases. Okay, so this is a simple map in Gothenburg showing how accessible the public transport system is to the surrounding area. And we're just using a colour density here to show good accessibility, and then the lighter colours going into these blues of poor accessibility to the public transport network. So you can use this information to understand how well connected your population is to the city and places that it lives and works in. Very simple, really. This is another accessibility map, and this is showing how connected you are to one point, and this point is Hamburg Airport, and it's a kind of like the further away you are, the less connected you are to it, but it's following along corridors as well, and these maps are showing us how well connected different neighbourhoods are to the airport, but you can pick any kind of land use to understand that connectivity. Most of that data you've seen so far is aggregated. It's a kind of like one picture for everybody, but we can also get this at a disaggregated level, and each of these dots represents a vehicle in a real-time moment, and the different colours are the speeds that those vehicles are travelling at. So this is a situational awareness. Not only do you see the kind of feeling of the speed on the links, but also the volume of vehicles along those links. And we could, if we wanted to, follow the trace of any individual vehicle along the route that they are going. So not only are we understanding speeds at any time of the day and volumes at any time of the day, we're also picking up a nice picture of the routes that people take. These are all important things in trying to validate and calibrate a transport model, because it needs to reflect reality. And here is some reality. This is Bordeaux, and this is a snapshot of a real-time situation. I hope the colours express themselves intuitively. Red is slow, delays, and green is free-flowing. And although it's not depicted here, we could also make those bands as wide as the volume, so you get a relative feel for the volume as well. We collect this information through providers like these guys and INRIX, and we put it into our transport models, every 2 minutes, we refresh this data. And where we don't have data, where there are no sensors or the data sampling is quite low, we have algorithms to propagate and fill those spaces with the volumes and the true story. So you get a single truth every 2 minutes. Now this is pretty cool. This will sit in a traffic management control center, and the operators can understand how their city is working that morning. And the smart thing we can do is also propagate this into the future being the next 5, 10, 15 minutes. So if I've got some congestion building here, I can see, because I know the volume of traffic up here that is coming this way, it will reach it in 5 minutes, does it add to that queue and make it worse? I can also understand if there's an incident, like an accident, or a broken down bus or something like this, that is taking capacity out of the network. I can use the real-time feed to tell me if this is going to be a problem for me. I can predict the propagation of that incident through time, and then I can start to manage it. I can use traffic control techniques to manage the situation. Smart cities should have this. Where am I going next? There we go. And this is a similar thing for Paris. So our data sources, just to sort of recap, we're also looking at cell phone data and trying to manage the sample size of that and extrapolate it into the full population. And we're also looking at GPS tracking information as well. A lot of places, for instance, all the taxis might have a GPS tracker, which is giving you speeds that these guys can give us. But it's also giving you a complete coverage of how taxis move around the city, which is a really hard thing to understand in the olden days. Impossible, almost. Just some examples of some maps. So this is zone to zone. So the trajectories, the trackers that I mentioned, you can pick up a start and an end point, and it would look like this. But then you can actually decide, if I pick one link in my network and capture all of the vehicles that pass through that link in a certain time window, actually where do they start and where do they end? So you can see a kind of footprint of movement through that central link that you are analysing. Similar sort of thing going on there. And also we can start to colour in these zones with the different kind of KPIs or volumes or other metrics that you might want to measure. Boom, 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 and I will skip through that bit. And this is London, and what we're showing here is the movement of people through the tracking that these guys give us in a really kind of messy way. But this is how it might start up. We're just drawing straight lines between start and end points between these blue zones, which are the 33 London boroughs. But actually what we do in our software is turn that into something like that, which starts to look like a road network, and it starts to look like the fat lines are the busy lines, which are your main motorways, expressways, and radials and orbitals. And there is your picture of London in a kind of real-time moment. And that is where I'll stop to allow the debate to continue.
Okay, thank you very much. Good presentation of uses of digital map. So now we'll leave the floor to Representative Commission. So the slides are arriving. I'm sorry, it's not my work.
No problem.
Thank you. So Claire Desprez has joined the Commission in 2001. She worked in the European Parliament with responsibilities encompassing industry, research on ICT, and after some years as Assistant of the Director General for Mobility and Transport, Mrs. Claire Desprez has been appointed Head of Unit in charge of Intelligent Transport System in DG Move in 2013. So just during this break, I have to remember you that you have a mobile app. On this mobile app, there is an evaluation place where you can evaluate all the speakers and the moderators. And it is recommended by the organizers of this Congress.
Okay, thank you. So, when listening to the first presentation, I was wondering where we would put the Commission. As a user, as an enabler? Let's see after the discussion. So for sure, I will be speaking about from the Commission side, from the European Commission side, but when preparing for this session, I was wondering where were the public authorities? And because obviously you have invited us, and obviously we are trying to put some enabling conditions to have better digital maps. But in the end, Commission is not managing traffic, Commission is not dealing with, let's say, not dealing immediately with road safety figures. So I try to prepare for this session and engage with some of my colleagues in the ministries. And actually I will finish my presentation with a question for the other panelists, so that we can maybe also integrate this into the further discussion. But let me start with the Commission perspective. So you see on the screen, and I think that if you have come to our booth, you will have seen how much we put effort in trying to also contribute to create this transport data layer. And of course, mobility and transport are probably one of the main beneficiaries from further digitalization, because obviously there are great potential to support our policy objective at European level, but obviously also at national level. We are looking all to have a safer transport, a certainly more efficient transport, and a cleaner transport. So, what are the Commission priorities? Not that many those days. 10 priorities, and one of these is about the digital single market. These show how much we should put effort to keep good path, to keep the efforts and making the best out of the single market also. I mentioned data. I can tell you whenever we are meeting our commissioner, the first thing she said to us, data guys, data has fuel of transport. And when we talk about data, not only road data, move ahead, move into the multimodal dimension. So obviously when we talk about data, the main problem is about interoperability. Main problem is again about cooperation, how to make the data flow more easy across Europe. Because what we want in the end is innovative services. We want new ways of being more efficient. And of course, ITS services are based on digital maps and all produce geographical data. So nice to see that Europe has been leading in this area of digital maps. But what are the requirements, the expectation, and what are also the challenges, I think, to evolve? Obviously, we have been looking at traditional ITS services, but many of you have already mentioned it in the beginning. Automation is upcoming. So do we need to do the things a bit differently? How can the public sector help the private sector? And how can the private sector also help us to do a bit better? So in the end, what we need is probably an increased partnership. So where can we help to do that happen? We have a very nice tool at European level. True, it's a directive. Directive means legislation. But our ITS directive is much, much, much more than just a piece of legislation. It is a super effective instrument to increase cooperation. Cooperation at European level, among member states, and among different stakeholders. We have been using this tool quite a lot during the last few years. We have adopted a lot of different set of, we call them technical specification, technical and functional specification, and many of these are actually data-centric They are trying to make access to data easier. What have we adopted? A delegated regulation on real-time traffic information services, static and dynamic data. Idea beyond is to have national access point where all this data can be retrieved. And same goes for a piece of legislation we are preparing in the area of multimodal information services. Here again, and maybe I link it with what Tom was saying, when we trying to create this, or to foster multimodal integration, modal integration, we are looking at hubs. And hubs mean not only bringing passenger from a car to a station, it's also enabling or making the life easier of the passenger, which is also meaning that we are looking inside the building. And of course, while we are developing this instrument, we need to ensure that the implementation of our technical specification is done in a proper manner, and also building on the Inspire technical framework. So, to support the implementation of this technical specification, to try to foster this cooperation, to try to enable this access to data, we are also using a very useful instrument, which is the Connecting Europe facility. This is the funding instrument for infrastructure-related activities. And of course, this instrument has precisely the aim of supporting this cooperation. So, already through projects we are currently funding, such as the European ITS platform, we are supporting this transport network ITS spatial data. Currently, you have 7 member states. Sorry, I went a bit too fast. Oops. Voilà. 7 member states: Belgium, Finland, France, Ireland, but also UK, Sweden, and Norway. They are participating in the TN ITS initiative. And all the procedures to exchange data in terms of road safety, it's quite already operational, at least in 2 member states. I see people happy in the back of the room. So, daily update for map providers, facilitating transactional-based products. So, I mean, there's a lot ongoing, a lot. Through the same funding program, through the Connecting Europe facility, we will be funding next year a program support action, 2 million euros. The aim is to stimulate and coordinate this coordinated provision of ITS road spatial data. So again, what we want in the end is increased quality. This is what in the end make people changing their behavior. So it's crucial. Of course, standards are important. And as part of this specification, we are trying to get to more harmonized data, because I think that this is also something that can be of help for digital map makers. We are working, and I want to insist on this, because sometimes people are saying, the Commission, maybe I talk with that particular services in the Commission, then they are not so much linked with others. Not true. We have tried to increase cooperation with our research center, and we did it very recently also for a joint transportation pilot that was presented last year in Bordeaux, which demonstrates the usability of Inspire, while indeed increasing and implementing the TN ITS exchange procedure. No standard, as I mentioned. We are also trying to support this harmonized data exchange. So, what is next? What are the emerging needs? This is a slide I have been using quite a lot those days. 2019 is a bit the target we have in trying to enable, in trying to support, let's say, the deployment of cooperative system across the EU. We have been working quite a lot, I see again quite a lot of face in the room, with a lot of you, in the context of the CHS platform. We have now a strong support from member states to move ahead on a European strategy to enable connected and automated vehicle. The automotive industry says it's ready. We will be there by 2019. So we need to take up the momentum. We need to use it. But of course, there are quite a challenge ahead, not only in terms of cooperative system deployment, but also paving the way towards automation. Because too often we talk about vehicles, but the infrastructure component is as important. And of course, when we talk about infrastructure, it's not only the physical infrastructure. It's much more related to the digital infrastructure. So throughout this platform, we will try to address also these issues in the upcoming months, trying to see how to make the best out of it in terms of enhanced traffic management. But what I can tell you is that since the day one work of this platform, we have tried to look at services, trying to agree on a number of services. And of course, probe data are part of this list of day one applications because they are an enabler, a strong enabler. So, as I mentioned, I was quite pleased to be here in the panel with all of you. But a question to you from my side and from my fellow colleagues in the ministries. My question is, what kind of information service provider offer in return to the data that public authorities are trying to make more easily accessible through the national access point? Where do you see the win-win opportunities? And I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Oh, a big question. Okay, if you like, we will come back to this question later on, and because it's a very important one, and I guess that there is not a simple answer. So it's a debate, so you will feel free to ask a question if you need, and I will take the opportunity that we have 3 manufacturers there to put some question. You know, I mentioned at the beginning of the speech the difficulties we had a couple of decades ago to build up a digital map, because the first step was to take the information from a paper map on a digital support. And of course, we become aware that the paper map was very different from one country to another, and thanks to the standardization supported by the Commission at the time, I must say that we made a lot of progress quickly. So now, how do you build a digital map? It seems at the same time very simple, but also it's very complex. If you have some answer to say.
Shall I kick off?
Because you are the second to that. No, you are the first one.
How to build digital maps of the 21st century? It's an easy question, but it's a hard technology to develop. And we have, of course, a long history, and we have invested in a lot of technologies to source data. That's the first step that you need to address. You need to get your hands on information that you want to represent in the map. That's one thing. And we have developed this mobile mapping vehicles. We have a number of local surveyors in countries that offer data, or they mine data, and they offer that to further processing. And next to that professional type of data collection, we have also a tap-in to the community data. Community data can be vehicle sensor data, can also be people reporting, or official governments, authorities, road operators reporting updates to be reflected in the maps. That's the sourcing part. That's something we're very good at. The challenging part is the mapping platform. And that's something we have worked on the last 5-6 years with hundreds of engineers to realize. That mapping platform is able to ingest all these inputs, observations, and figuring out whether it's relevant information to update the map. And we have such a platform now in place, and we are seeing the first results of it. And what is the result? The result is that from basically significant reduction in time between an observation of a change in reality and the fact that the map is updated with this change and available in the end product to be used by a driver or to be used by a vehicle in an automated system, for example. So sourcing, platform, and also the distribution, but I will not elaborate too much on that.
Okay. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, well, I think TomTom is doing very similar things as here in this space. So I think from a higher level point of view, this is very similar. Maybe I want to add also, in combination with sort of your ask, you see a huge difference depending on the country. And so you really have to have local knowledge. For example, some communities, some local governments still provide updates in a whole package of, say, PDF formats, things, which they throw on your desk. And we as a service provider, mapping provider, need to go through. And we are talking about standards. How could we enable a kind of standardization, and quickly updating maps. So if people who generate this sort of content could help out in providing and opening up this sort of data in a more easy, accessible way, obviously this will be a tremendous way forward. So that indeed you can do things real time so that people can benefit from it. And delivery technology is capable more and more of doing so. So you can really benefit from that. So that's maybe what I want to add as what Stefan said.
Do you want to add something from PTV point of view?
No, I don't make maps. So
But you use maps.
I use them, yeah.
Okay. And you use free maps, OpenStreetMap?
No, it really depends. OpenStreetMaps are okay, but you have to treat them with caution because you don't know if there are errors in there or where the errors are or what type of errors there are. So you have to have a different diligence on using OpenStreetMaps. Depends on your purpose, of course. But we always try to persuade our clients that if you get a map from these guys, it's going to be higher quality, and the investment on that is probably, in the long run, a better thing than an OpenStreetMap. But of course, it depends on your needs. So.
Okay. So I come up with a very important question of Claire. Could you save some money, some effort, if you could get from the public authority kind of base map that will be given to you?
I was looking for the win-win.
And
I heard about the win one side. Now I would like to see the win from the public authority side.
yes, that's a good question.
If I can answer it, or
How would you imagine a win-win solution?
I can answer very quickly. It's like safety, fuel efficiency from the industry perspective. Huh? That's what you get in return. Technology that makes people's life better.
Mm-hmm. So just to give through some discussion we had when preparing the legislation, people were saying, okay, very good, we provide the data, but let's not forget we are creating, we are generating traffic management rules. So how do we make sure that once we have provided not only static but also real-time data, then the service provider, who is more and more the one who has the direct link with the end user, make sure that this data is then really immediately translated, and that, I don't know, if a bridge is closed, because I think about Brussels, those days there's not a single tunnel operating or usable in Brussels. So how to make sure that actually when you have a traffic management rule or change in the status of an information, it is immediately provided to the end user.
This is where the solution I was talking about, the real-time solution, which is called Optima, can take the real-time feeds, create the full picture across your network, and can also monitor when the network conditions are changing to a point where you trigger an alert to tell you something has gone wrong with my network just now. You can use other techniques to then validate that issue, CCTV or maybe police officers on the ground. What is the incident that I'm dealing with? And then you can use the short-term forecast to see how this is going to impact on the network around you. And every 2 minutes this is refreshing, so you get a constant update on the situation in the network. But you can also then, your traffic control officers can then use those forecasts to implement a strategy to deal with the incident. So this is a win-win. This is a smart city solution. This is keeping cities moving or reducing the impacts, mitigating the impacts quicker than we can do it now.
Okay.
Okay, any reaction in the room? Because I see that there are a lot of specialists in that matter here. So. Yes, please.
It's Oliver Bain from...
If you want to take the microphone.
Oh, I shall. That's fine.
Okay.
From the Young Professionals of ITS UK. I just wondered, it's a bit of a question really. Lots of local authorities have already invested a lot of capital expenditure on detection that's already on the network, for example. But I noticed in presentations that are up here, I don't see any of that information sort of trickling in. Apologies, I missed the first presentation, so if it was all in there, I'm really sorry, I'm an idiot myself.
Everything was in there, so.
Right. So it's just on the map side of things, on the sorry, Mr. Spear's presentation there.
No.
There was no, the main feeding was from GPS and from the other one. Sorry.
Well, the information that we take, basically we're after two things. We're after the speed on the network, at all the points on the network, and we're after the volume, the volume of traffic. And we also do this in public transport as well. And those two things can come from all manner of information. It can come from GPS trackers. It can come from, I mean, these guys won't reveal their sources, but these guys are collecting this information. It can come from permanent count sites. It can come from traffic signal loops on the ground. I mean, you guys are better placed to give an idea of where your sources of information is coming from.
And first, maybe a question for clarification. So you're referring really to the infrastructure put in the roads, loop sensors, cameras, these sort of information. Is that correct understanding?
Absolutely correct, yeah. And especially with the dawn of obviously IP networks now being more prolific.
Yeah.
There's obviously so much more data from detection devices that are already on the network. So, like, how much is that data being used, or is there a reason that data is not being used?
Yeah.
Is there something to be done by?
Yeah. So yeah, I think I can comment to that. So it's actually it was not in presentation, just to yeah. And what you see that nowadays we have so much FCD data, so much GPS data that yeah, for example, for generating real-time traffic information, it not necessarily brings direct value. So maybe on some certain locations where you have more challenge to receive GPS probe data, for example, in tunnel kind of situations, you start to need to become a little bit more smart in how you do and detect things. So there it might have sort of a help to have look data available. And but of course, as sometimes if you mix these sources together, then that can help. But yeah, at least for here speaking, we see more and more that we less rely on really road sensor data for generating traffic information. So maybe you can comment as well.
Yeah, I can support this perspective. Typically, what we have seen in the past when we were rolling out our HD traffic services, in the first phase, we indeed mined that information because there was a scarcity of probe data often. But when that amount of data increased, there was lesser and lesser value in having this loop detection data coming in. In the early days, again, as we expanded the coverage, often this data, because it was very accurate and correct data, was used to calibrate models. So you often have to do this calibration at the start, and once you have sufficient confidence, that what you see in the probes are actually what's happening in the real world situation. You can then further on rely on your solution that is mainly based on probe data. And don't forget the amounts of probe data are staggering. We are talking about tens of millions of active users in Europe, so to speak, active. We're talking about hundreds of millions of possible contributors of these probes. I've mentioned that, and now I can come back to my first slide. We have these sport watches, we have mobile phones and things like that. There's like a variety of devices that are feeding that feed of GPS traces. I'm sorry. But that's actually the point we actually want to make when we talk to people that are going to decide upon installing infrastructure. Be clever, look for all the solutions there are, and sometimes for your solution it might be making holes in the pavement and putting in sensors. In other solutions it might be more optimal to look in this probe type of data collection systems.
Okay, another question?
Well, hello, Gernot Bucher from Traffic Consultants in Austria. I have a question to the map providers. From what I understood, your main customer of your lane level maps is really the automotive industry. But clearly, thinking of autonomous driving, there are other roles participating maybe more indirectly in this context, like traffic management, service providers, or infrastructure providers.
Yes.
And of course, these people are currently using maps, and they might have also need for these high specific lane level maps. Mm-hmm. And my question would be if it's planned to provide access to these lane level maps beyond the automotive industry, and what will this access most probably look like?
Can I reply with a very easy answer? These HD maps will be, in 2 or 3 years, will be the standard maps of today. So, of course, yes, we will provide them. We already provide to a number of companies who are doing modeling with that type of data. So, no, it's not exclusive for the automotive industry, unless I am mistaken, and Frank can tell you about that.
I can confirm what Stefan is stating. Yes, they will be also available for other applications. Yes. And also maybe jumping onto that, so we talked about vehicle sensor data, so high definition maps, but you can also have other type of services like pothole detection. And of course, initially you might think, okay, that's nice to have that in your vehicle available so that you're being warned that you need to drive a little bit careful. But of course, you can start to supply this back to authorities as well, so that you can feed authorities, road authorities with, hey, there is something ongoing on your road here, you can update this. So all these sort of feedback loops, those will be established, yes. So it's really open up and giving a lively exchange of information, based on this sort of information. Yeah. Maybe that's also partially.
This is what I was looking for.
So this sort of information can also help road authorities and.
So we need more exchange of information between all the stakeholders in this industry. There is maybe a touchy thing. You know that the mapping that is requested by the customer now is always with more accuracy, up to date, and so on. They want to have more layers of information on the maps. So for you, it's always a challenge. Especially it means also investment to collect all this data. And at the same time, you have newcomers, and I just refer to an example that I personally live with Google Earth. I was trying to sell satellite imaging coming from spot 5 and spot 4, and it was very expensive. It was very difficult to sell this satellite imaging only for a limited number of people. And suddenly Google Earth came and they bought all the satellite imaging on the world and put it in the internet. So it was not exactly the same quality. It was not always updated, but it's more and more updated now. So I guess that for the mapping industry, something like that can happen. You have newcomers who can, from the day to the other day, to change completely the business model. So how do you tackle this uncertainty, in fact?
Yeah. It's of course not so if you're talking about mapping company like here and I think also in a way TomTom, and so we derive money or revenues out of selling content, and of course you do have other content providers or people who build maps who have a different sort of business model. Either that being advertising sort of ways. Yeah, of course, those kind of companies have different levers to work with in order to generate revenues, and so they can put their money in different ways. At this moment in time, I see that, well, here is providing to enterprises, to the Microsoft, to the Facebooks of this world, this sort of information, but also to OEMs, to enterprises, and those parties, those commercial parties, are willing to work with service providers who earn their money with content only, rather than being reliant on, for example, click-through rates of which is difficult for them to accept. So in their specific needs, in their specific environments. At this moment in time, I see that there is a space for selling content as such, and as a viable business model. So,
my answer is a bit easier. It's innovation. You innovate, you adapt, and you also diversify. Again, I can refer to my first slide. You can look for niche markets and target your products for those type of markets. And in such a way, you're, I would not say immune to these type of newcomers, but at least you can mitigate the impact.
Okay. And this innovation that you mentioned, what is the place for 3D mapping, for augmented reality, for example, superposing mapping images with images taken by a camera and giving more information to the drivers or to the mobile users, in fact? How you do manage this innovation?
Yeah, it's all these sort of things we're working on, right? So and some of these products have been live out there. For example, you mentioned augmented reality. I think some of you might remember the augmented reality applications on the Windows Phone, where you could just put up your camera, and you look to your camera and you see the POIs along the street. So these sort of experiences. And for sure you will see augmented reality back in the vehicles later on. For example, HD Map will enable to place more accurately, put things on the screen, so that you have, for example, really guidance when you're looking through your screen, and it's exactly the arrows where you need to go are exactly positioned on the right driving lanes. And so also all these sort of applications are enabled by more accurate map data, and yes, so you will see those things back. Yeah.
Do you think it's a real market, new market for you, or an opportunity, or just a niche market that will with very limited application?
I think you will see this back more and more in the future. I think it will not be purely a niche market. I think it will be expanded, yes.
Any question in the room? Yes?
I have a question.
Do you want to use the microphone?
I don't know if they can all hear me.
The microphone is not working,
Yes,
I think so.
No.
In terms of the smart city and the modeling, that you obtain a little bit, I suppose, demographically speaking, should come from the government, and maybe they don't have such automatized systems for gathering such data. So I wonder how do you work with these discrepancies in terms of the scalability and the quality of the information.
I mentioned in my presentation that where we don't have information, where it's missing, we have algorithms to propagate and fill those gaps so we can create the full picture. But we do, every city that we work with, we already understand at the beginning the quality of the data. It's the first question we ask. Who can be our data providers, and do these guys have the coverage that we need to be able to build a quality model? And actually the specification that a city will write to deliver a smart city solution takes a couple of years to put together, and they will have experts that will say you will need this, this, this and this, and they ought to do their research to find out whether it's available. So it is an obvious check that happens. But generally I've not found a place where we've not been able to do this yet.
Mm.
I can imagine that some cities might be a challenge still.
I agree.
And we have to go through a calibration exercise as well, that the model that we produce actually matches the data that we receive as well. So we're not just creating something that's completely made up or doesn't represent the data that comes in. This can be a challenge.
But on the other side, coming again on this work that we have done with the member states, of course, some of them were explaining that despite the fact that they had trying to provide the necessary data, there's no interest from the digital map industry. So hence again the effort to trying to standardize the way the data is produced. But on the other side, there's no high expectation in terms of deliverable, I would say now. And of course, I agree that the quality of data might significantly differ, not only from member states to member state, but for sure city to city. Yeah.
There was another question there, yeah?
So I'm interested to know, you've spoken a lot about data capture via GPS, devices, watches, phones, cars, etc. There's a lot of data that's relevant that can't be captured in that way. So for example, associating road names with a track, you can create a track with GPS, no problem, but associating the correct road name or the correct address or business name or that sort of information can't be done. So how do you go about doing that? And how would you see, is that actually what we should be focusing on going forwards as the difficult elements compared to the relatively simple thing of GPS extraction?
Well, coming back to this approach of observing the road with, for example, mobile mapping vehicles, there's already a large amount of information that you can capture with high-resolution camera systems. So instead of, street names, house number, ranges or house numbers, there's quite a lot of information you can already collect. Parallel to this, we are mining, of course, a lot of other sources related to street names and route names and so on. So we are mining that from different sources, from local authorities to indexes, yellow pages, any source that we can apply to correlate to the camera observations and things like that. So there's a complete process in place to fuse that information and to possibly derive the best possible result that we can get. And that's by mixing a lot of different sources.
But okay, if I may just add something, but of course when we talk about probe data, we are necessarily talking about personal data in a way. So through this all work we have done through the CSS platform, we have been looking quite a lot about data protection and privacy. So trying really to put, let's say, not only I would say the owner of the vehicle, but also the driver in the driving seat in terms of can I give my consent if I want to broadcast, yes or no? If no, nothing happens. If yes, for what kind of services? So, of course, this is a big dimension that we'll have to take into account, especially if we want to have public acceptance for these new technologies.
Yes?
Sorry, just to extend on your point there, as well as data that can't be collected, things like classification. So when our emissions are becoming, well, not becoming, they have been a big deal and are becoming more now into the spotlight. How, I suppose, as a, yeah, as the, from your point, as a transport modeler, how important is classification going to be for your role moving forward in understanding which are bus routes and which are HGVs, for example, and where they're moving throughout? Are you going to find your customers asking you those questions more? And then as the map providers and some of your data providers, have you got other ways of doing that via GPS and via cell phones, or will you be using other platforms to provide that data? Or do you already provide that data?
Okay, I'll start. We have a piece of software called Visin, which is a micro simulation software. You actually see the vehicles driving around the network, and these networks will be the high definition networks that these guys will make. So the geometry and layout of the network is precise. You see the vehicles moving around, looks like a 3D cartoon, but these vehicles are following proper driver behavior algorithms. So it's realistic. We are working with another company, there are a couple of companies like this, that make 3D models of cars. I don't know who their clients are, but you can imagine maybe the gaming industry might use these cars. But actually inside these cars are all of the performance and analytics of that precise vehicle. So pick an Audi, the car they make has got the engine size, it's got the emissions information, it's got the acceleration, deceleration profiles and the emissions they create. It's got the wear and tear on the brakes, for instance, and then also the particulates that can come off brakes if you're braking hard. So in our simulation, we can put this vehicle inside and then get all the analytics of how this vehicle is performing in real-life driving situations, in urban situations, in free-flow, in congestion. It's going to be a pretty powerful thing you can do. And then the conversion of that information, if you populate your vehicle mix as it is in real life, you can start to create emission maps as well. This is the future.
Yeah.
And it's here. Yeah, we're in the future.
So, but if you're able to define that dynamically, we are able to store that in a map and offer the services. But I want to make clear that just like any other administrative data or other classified data, we source that. And you know, high emission zones, we might source it from the local government, of course. We are not going to define that ourselves as a private industry. So we would collect that information. And a challenging aspect might be the dynamics. So there might be some loop somewhere that says, well, this geofence of my emission zone is not static, it's dynamic. And in the morning it's different, and and whatever. And somebody else will define it, we will put it in the map, and our services, our customer services, will rely on that data.
Or you can even imagine that you will build a dynamic service on top of that, right? So if it's really that dynamic, depending on the weather, you would allow certain things or not. Then rather than having the very rigorous way of putting down the even numbered and license plate cars in the street and the other ones are allowed to drive, you can think of more advanced ways of managing this. This would be potential new service. So.
Okay, another reaction? Yeah.
I have a question coming from Norway, and I've driven the car all the way. I'm asking Tom here.
Did you get lost?
About the maps, the design, and for the users. Have you some new approaches to that? What is very important for us? How the maps look like and appears to us, and use your applications. Have you some thoughts about how the future will be? Will it be
yes, we absolutely have a lot of thoughts about that. So we are talking about highly automated driving, and you're referring to the user experience. And I also mentioned in the introduction presentation that comfort and of people driving such a vehicle is very important. So the next question is, if we introduce highly automated driving vehicles, will there be parts on roads where you're allowed to drive highly automated driving and parts where you're not? But if that is the case, how will this handover take place? How do you interact then? And how do you create a human-machine interface which give me the comfort in order to either take control or hand it over back without being very anxious? And so there are a lot of things which come into play. But a little bit more down to earth, or a little bit more to nowadays kind of things. I also have a favorite example of me personally. I'm a kind of traffic freak, and every morning I will commute my 65 kilometers commute. I will enter my office destination into my vehicle. So while my wife is doing a very similar commute, actually we should move probably, but that's another thing. But she doesn't, she's more lazy in that aspect. So she's not utilizing the navigation to the full extent, and easily she runs into a traffic jam and she gives me a call, am I late? And I say, okay, well, you didn't enter your home address? No, I didn't. And so these kind of things have triggered also the industry to think about, okay, how can we make it more relevant every day? And you can do this by learning driver behavior, capturing this in a mobility graph, and so that the navigation automatically predicts where you will be going, even on your daily commute. And not the optimal route, but maybe your preferred route rather than the optimal route, because you find a very nice detour always, which is very handy for you. And so that you capture that, and that as soon as you get into your car, that the car is notifying you. Normally it doesn't bother you because it lets you drive, but in the case there's a serious traffic jam, you'll be notified. And so there are a whole lot of different ways in the 20th century which will enable a more daily usage of a map or a navigation system. So just an example as to what maybe you're referring to or you're searching for. So.
If we go further down this way, with coming up soon of cooperative ITS, V2X, so this vehicle are supposed to produce a lot of information in terms of CAM or TNM messages. Is it a question that you put in your negotiation with car manufacturers or OEM to have access to this anonymized data, or okay?
Well,
there is no value for you, maybe.
No, there's a lot of value in it. So and in that sense, it's a sort of an initial easy answer for me because here has been acquired by the 3 German OEMs, and again, as I stated during my presentation, we're getting access to their vehicle sensor data. But I also want to make an additional statement of it. Well, we haven't been acquired by these 3 OEMs, just that the sort of the maps, the services we're providing will only be served to these 3 OEMs because they understand very, very well that it's at the end of the day all about scale and coverage. And it could be that in the south of Germany, they have a very, very good coverage on certain aspects. But this is not necessarily the case throughout the world. So when you want to enable these kind of fresh maps, highly automated driving use cases, I think there is a strong need of collaboration and exchange of this sort of information. And so it's my expectation that there will be a sort of a marketplace for this sort of vehicle sensor data. Where this will hold a certain value in order to make things happen. And this is still in such an immature state. The market is immature, and we need to find out, okay, but what is the value of that, and how much can you charge for it, and what can you actually do with all this sensor data? Some easy applications. And of course, nowadays we do use it for traffic information, and that's a sort of easy thing between quotes. but there will be more challenging tasks to be derived from sensor data. So.
Yeah. Do you want to add something?
No, I think you used the word immature. I think we are starting to learn there, and I can also be a bit provocative there. If, for example, your intelligent car with all the sensors observes some accidents or some injured people on the road, it should actually report it to somebody else. It should share that data. So that data should not be kept for one.
But we have eCall. Huh?
Yeah.
2018, we have eCall.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Voilà.
Yeah, very well.
But of course, if you can enable this automatically, of course you have kind of eCall. But if indeed, as Stefan said, well, it's if you detect something automatically, if you can share that with the cloud, and but also making the connection to the road authorities.
But this is the purpose.
Yes.
An accident, a triggering system, and an immediate call to the emergency services.
But also less emergent things like, for example, there is a car to the side of the road who has stopped over because it has a flat tire, these kind of things. Mm-hmm. Even those kind of more simple things, if you can share that with the road authority, which might not have necessarily everywhere cameras.
We do this in Abu Dhabi. One of our customers in Abu Dhabi is the police force. And they have a real-time system, so when an incident is detected and it triggers an alert, they can identify it through CCTV or men on the ground. Is it a flat tire? Is it something I need to dispatch an ambulance to? And so they're using it to optimize and make their dispatching of police vehicles to the scene in a better way. Mm. And that's one example.
Yeah, and what I like that I see more and more initiatives also taking place on the DTI space where really apps are connected to clouds, which is mixed with really the sort of real-time traffic information we build, and then that data coming from apps where users can input, hey, there's a dangerous situation here, but it's really coupled also to traffic management centers, so they can provide feedback as well to the users. And right now this is with apps, but if you start to integrate that with the regular navigation systems, then it becomes even greater, and then it's about closing the loop. And that's also a little bit partly answering your question, Claire. It's about how can you bring value in that collaborative space, and connecting the OEM vehicles to road authorities very directly.
You can imagine a future. At the moment, our system is taking a one-way feed from you guys, and then we use it, and then the traffic control center makes decisions, or other stakeholders make decisions. But you can imagine the decisions that we want to influence the users to make. You know, shall I divert from this corridor to this corridor? Imagine if we have a system where our decision making is fed back to you guys, who then feed it to the end users in their vehicles, and they're changing route without even knowing they're changing route, because the navigation just does it. But it doesn't do it for everybody, because it makes no sense for everybody to go to this corridor. It kind of like finds that equilibrium, that balance. Imagine that. That would be...
I'm a bit reassured, I must say, because I had the impression from the first question and answer that more or less you had all the data, and what we were trying to build was not necessary at all. So now I have the impression that this loophole is a better represented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it only slowly starts, right? It's I can imagine the kind of feeling which that gives, but yeah, and the other thing was what I only had 10 minutes, so yeah, I'm sorry for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have a reaction in the room, because we are arriving at the end of the session? All the questions have been answered. So do you want to say a last word of a panelist?
Oh, thank you very much for your attention.
That's good. So just...
I might
Yes.
leave with one note. Most of what we're talking about here is using something that just happened or historically we collected, and we're measuring trends and using those trends to predict the future. If we jump forward 20 years' time, we still do this now when we're planning. We're taking these trends and we project them into the future, and then we plan for that. But then it's slightly off agenda, but when we're talking about an autonomous vehicle future where our travel habits will change, our car ownership will change, accessibility to a car will change, because people who don't have access to a car today may have access to an autonomous vehicle in a better way than they do to a bus, for instance. So the way we move will change, and whilst all this data is historical and it's good, and it's a kind of truth for today, projecting it forward into an uncertain future will be a real challenge for all of us.
Well, prediction is very hard, especially about the future. That's Niels Bohr.
It's a good level. So we see, okay, ITS will always need a good mapping industry. Standardization, accuracy, up-to-date math are very, very important. So we come up with difficulty of defining a win-win situation in the exchange of data. But fortunately, nobody in the room say within 10 years we will not need any more mapping in the car. So that's all. Thank you very much for attending this session.